Board of Education. Please let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we move on, we had Tucker. We are sympathetic for your loss. Very sorry. Thank you for your loss. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I will say congratulations, Mr. Lopez, on your retirement. Your birthday's tomorrow. All right. Brings us down to our special recognitions and presentations. We have a update for federal funding for Lola.
Good evening, and appreciate the opportunity to share the updates. So just want to kind of give you just some background information. So the U.S. Department of Education released to our State Board of Education Part A, Title I, Part A, preliminary, and then because Title I, we get a preliminary allocation, then in July we get a final allocation, then in October we get a final allocation. So they have released preliminary and the July final allocations for Title I, Part A. They had not released any preliminary allocations for Title II, Part A, Title III, Part A, and Title IV, Part A. But the Department of Ed had given us a proposed budget of a 20% reduction so that we could just do that for budgeting purposes. Then we got information that the Department of Ed, the U.S. Department of Ed, is reviewing their FY25 funding. Now, funding had been appropriated, but they're reviewing it to ensure that taxpayer resources are spent in accordance with the new president's priorities and the department's statutory responsibilities. So they have paused funding for that while they do the review. In the past years, these funds have been made available on July 1. However, July 1 of 2025, they did not release those funds for that. And they shared with us today that there is not in the law a timeline of when those funds have to be released. So the grants impacted or that are on pause for right now are Title I, Part C, which is education of migrant children, which we do not receive any grant for that. Title II, Part A, supporting effective instruction, we do receive that. Title III, Part A, language instruction for English learners, and we do receive a grant for that. Title IV, Part A is student support and academic enrichment, and we do receive a grant for that. But those three things are paused that we receive. And then they also paused Title IV, Part B, which is 21st Century Community Learning Centers. So the guidance from the Department of Ed at the state said to look at what are immediately planned expenditures, such as salaries that might need to be covered by other funding sources. They told us that we may be reimbursed for these expenditures should the funds be released, but it's not guaranteed that the funds will be released. Today we learned that they said if the funds were released, that they may not be released in time that we could expend them. So they're just saying to maybe think about not even planning on those funds. And to also determine priorities and may be able to draw upon other federal funds such as Title I, which has been released, or local funds to pay for services deemed essential. So just I want to share with each of those titles. Title I, Part A, which is our Title I schools. Our FY26 allocation, the July final allocation, was reduced $94,515.36 more than what I had projected at personnel season. So I want to thank you guys for following the superintendent's recommendation for those folks on transfer. So that, that's a great deal. So it still funds 28 school staff and 3.95 district staff for the coming year. We will have an estimated carryover of $514,293.27. So looking at that carryover, we had already moved 20% of our district staff salaries into that carryover to address that reduction. I also, in my budget, have a reserve funding of $22,031.81 for charter schools because we don't get that final allocation with charter schools until October. Last year, we had a reduction because we had a new charter school and they are expanding grade levels this year. So we wait till that October 1 enrollment report so we know how that impacts us. So I have that reserve there in my budget as well that we may not need, but it's there if we are reduced even further. It also funds homeless needs, professional development, like data analysis, and then our private schools have their equitable portions of that, like Mother Goose, Notre Dame, and St. Mary's, which totals about $44,367 for private school allocations. Title II, which is Part A, which is on pause, that's our professional development portion. The budget that they gave us as a projection was reduced by $85,000 there. So we had already been looking at things there. It funds 5% of my administrative federal program secretary. We've moved that to the carryover Title II already. Or if I need to, I can move it to Title I. It also funds 2 elementary and 1 secondary curriculum specialist salary, their supplies and travel. Because I was looking at our carryover and for the elementary curriculum specialist, 10 of our 12 elementary schools are Title I schools. So we looked at moving already, before we got that guidance, 80% of their salaries to the Title I carryover to expend that, and then leaving only 20% in Title II. And so that 20% we've moved to the Title II carryover. And then 50% of the secondary curriculum specialists will move to the Title II carryover. The other portion of that grant of the budget is professional development for data analysis, the elementary science reading and mathematics support for teachers that those curriculum specialists do. The new teacher support, it's supplemental new teacher support. It's not what's required by the state, but it's supplemental that Ms. Hawk does. Tuition reimbursement if somebody's not fully certified, and then professional memberships for curriculum specialists. The private schools also have their equitable portions in there, and between the schools that opt into Title II, that amounts to about $17,001.65. Like I said, with the projected carryover, we should be okay with funding those salaries that we deem essential. Title III, Part A, is the language instruction for English language learners. The projected allocation that they given us with the 20% reduction was reducing it by $5,291.50. What that is used for is in parent and family engagement activities, the professional development for the EL teachers, supplemental EL instruction books and materials, and a bilingual dictionary app. Then the private schools would have their equitable portion of $1,512.95. The other funds that come in to support EL are the state EL funds. Those are not impacted because it's state funding. Our allocation for that is $5,229, which is an increase of $152. We celebrate an increase finally. What we use that for is to the language line translations, phone translations for the families. So we use the state EL funds because that way anybody in employees can use it, and it can be for anything. Whereas if we funded it out of Title III, it could only be for those Title III funded activities. So like parent-teacher conference, which are county required, we couldn't use it if we funded it out of Title III. So that's why I always use the state funds, so anybody can use it for anything to talk with the families. Title IV, Part A, which is the student support and academic enrichment, and that's the pot that has 3 buckets for well-rounded, for safe and supportive, and effective use of technology. Their 20% projected budget was $263,759.81, which was a decrease of $11,768.77. What we use that for are the licenses for like Newsella, which you guys just approved in July, Learning A to Z and Seesaw, a portion of it. And then the consultants for merging schools and or schools identified for improvement. The private schools have their equitable portions totaling $15,347.73 out of that money. But because I never have my funding by July 1, I'm always a year behind. So like last year's money in Title IV is what I've used for the renewing of the licenses on July 1. So that way I'm always a year behind with the funding source. So that's a good thing because in that way we are covered through next year with our FY25. I mean, through this school year with our licenses. We've already paid for it out of last year's funding. What is new in federal funding for us this year is Title I, Part D, which is neglected and delinquent. In the spring, we learned that we actually qualified for it last year in the amount of $85,203.04. And this year's appropriation would be $126,801.92. That is generated every October. We have to do a neglect and delinquent report, which is based on our Alta Vista and Genesis students that attend our schools. And that has generated some funding. Years ago, we used to get the Title I N&D part, Title I N&D, which is the Title I Part D, back when we had Presley Ridge. And at that point in time, the Alta Vista and Genesis kids didn't qualify in that funding. But now with all the changes, they do. So we have that coming back to us. I've had consultations with the Department of Ed as to how that funding can be used. I had consultations with Mr. Kirby, those impacted principals, because those students attend the Nutter Fort Elementary Schools, the, what will be Liberty Middle now, and RCB, and also the Chief Operating Officer at the Genesis Youth Crisis Center to survey their needs with what we would like to do with that money. So with all of those consultations, what we're looking at is a position to support the at-risk students, noted as grant funded. So it doesn't look like it's a county funded position. So that's what we would like to do with that based on all of those consultations. But in summary, our Harrison County plan with the federal funding is to always remember that any title funding is supplemental. It's an add-on. It's not what is required. So we've identified salaries as essential, and we've utilized carryover funding for moving them into Title I carryover funding. The other FY26 budgeted amounts would only be authorized upon the release of those federal funds. And if we deem something as essential of those, then we can look at the county professional development funds, like the Step 7D. We can look at the county EL supplies and prioritize those items. And then we would be reviewing the staffing and the licenses in the spring when we're looking at FY27 funding. And I've also notified the private schools that those pots of money may or may not be coming, and not to do anything until they hear from us with that. For them not to try to enter into contracts or to do anything with that, because it would need to come to us. So they have been notified for that. So any questions?
The one thing to take away from today was they told us not to enter into any new contracts,
Mhm.
nothing new that we haven't already budgeted or looked at, was their recommendation.
And I'm pretty confident with what we had already done, that will get us through this year, and then that gives the federal government time to decide what they're doing with the allocations and things like that, and gives us some time to look at it as well.
The message was clear today to not really count on that, the operators that were not getting those additional title funds. So,
But Title I is still here.
yeah, we have the Title
We
I.
still have Title I,
big
yes.
bulk.
Yes, that's the majority of it.
That's the big bulk.
Okay, the at-risk position that you're talking about,
Yes.
you're going to be seeking, how long would that grant pay for that?
Well, looking at the funding amounts, what it looks like, we could use the FY '25 funding to fund this year position. Then the FY '26 funding to go the following year and a portion of the next. And so each year we've been getting allocations, but that way we're kind of like the Title IV, we're kind of operating in behind the scenes with carryover funding that allows us time.
Would that promote a problem? I know I can see you're here, but would that promote a problem on keeping somebody in that position? I mean, or at least getting somebody in that position, because it's only a year to year.
It has the potential. It has
And the
potential.
posting would say,
Yeah, but
grant
I think
fund,
we're
but
up
it would
front.
have to be clear. Mr. Kirby was in that conversation too, because he works with those students, so I'm glad you're here this evening to speak on that, because we did talk about what the job description would look like, what you felt the schools would need. Lola came down and said that money was there, and that's really what it's kind of generated. We can't use it for really anything else other than maybe supplies, instructional supplies for those students.
Or professional development
For
for those
professional
teachers,
development.
but when you're talking that amount of money.
Yeah.
And based on the needs, the position is the most effective use of the funds.
It's the one that probably would help the school system and the kids out the most. We really, I mean, in the past, we've had liaisons that worked between the schools and the center, and it worked really well. And we've, over time, we've lost those because we've lost funding, or that person has resigned and left, and we decided not to fill it again. So we're back down the road of the grant again, and it would be nice if we had somebody to kind of smooth the path and, use them as a contact with the center, and it just makes a smoother transition for those kids in and out of the school system.
Well, where would this person be located at?
We talked, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say, we talked about looking at maybe RCB, because that would be the majority of the students.
Split time between there and.
Yes, yeah, but home location would be.
Yeah.
That's good. Questions about that?
So what's the overall impact to Title I, to Title programs, federal programs?
Title-
Is that all Title?
Between Title II, III, and IV, we don't have that funding. It's like $625,000 overall. In some odd sense, that's 625,000 and some with that.
Back to that position, I think we were looking at something like a social worker type
Yes,
position.
that's correct.
Yes.
Somebody with that type of background.
Yes, somebody that's trained and educated in that realm, so that they can work with those students and work with the facility to have an understanding of what they do.
And they would be a county employee, so they would have benefits.
Absolutely.
And I will say historically, Mr. Devon, Title I has its ebbs and flows, you know, I've seen it in my tenure go up and down. Like the year that Dr. Manchin came in, his first year, we had $1 million increase in Title I alone in allocation. And then over the years, it's gone back down, and so it has its ebbs and flows. So that's why we appreciate your guys following, and as the board members, following the recommendations during personnel season. That's very helpful for that.
You've never seen funds frozen before.
No, I've never seen funds paused before, no. No, and what was alarming for me was when they said today that if funds are released, that it may not be in time for you to expend them. Now, and I keep in mind that when we have funds, there's a 2-year spending capability of that. So like FY26 funds or this school year's funds, I can spend through this year and next year. Next year, that becomes a carryover. So when you're talking a 2-year time frame, unless they would change the time frame of that, which is a possibility, but that was alarming to me.
Was the term carryover used with that, though, at that time?
Yeah, once we pass the September 30th deadline, then it becomes carryover funding on the second year.
They didn't specifically say that, you know, it could be a 2-year deal then because of the carryover.
And we generally spend that first before we
Correct.
do funding, so.
I am thankful that we have the carryover
Absolutely, yeah.
to do that.
So this year, you've got the report. Next year, is there some kind of forecast as to what we can expect next year as well? I mean, if it's a $625,000 impact this year, $625,000 impact next year.
Now, when I say 625,000, I'm talking if we don't get those funds at all.
That's what I'm.
Okay.
They don't know what they're doing on the federal level.
Well,
Right.
my thought process is, how do we cover that? Do we cover that? Do we have a plan for that if they don't release them, the funds?
Well, that's what we've already looked at, transferring salaries to carryover.
Is that
Funding.
long-term or short-term or?
That's for this year,
This fiscal year.
this fiscal year. And then we'll have to look in the spring.
Let's see if you have any carryover. I mean, that, it will affect probably title salaries possibly.
Title
Title
II,
Yeah,
Title I. I mean,
depends on your carryover though. Like if you pick up anything extra, it's not going to be.
right,
Have you always had carryover?
yes, I've always had carryover,
That's obviously a good thing.
yes.
It means manage that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right. It's a sobering report, so brings us down to superintendent's update. I'm so
Delegation.
sorry, delegations. I have one delegation. Selena Yarber, is that you?
Yes.
Okay. You have 5 minutes to speak in front of the board. Will let me know that typically in these situations, the board is not interactive with the individual. If there's something you would like to discuss with the board, we would welcome you to stay through the meeting and discuss it with them.
Okay, do I need to stand over here? I've never done this before.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you guys for letting me come and speak. I just have a couple questions. My grandson is a dirt bike racer. And during the school year, you know, where they keep bringing the school year closer and closer. Last year it was the 21st, this year it's the 15th. He still has races until September. So my question is, and he also starts races at the end of March. My question is there anything that we can do, because I know there's 5 days, is it a semester or a year, I'm not sure, that there's personal days, or they don't have to have a doctor's note and don't get called absent. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, he needs some extra days where, or I need to figure out if there are extra days where if he has a dirt bike race, he races a lot in South Carolina, he races some in Florida, North Carolina, and they're on Saturdays usually, sometimes Sundays. And we need to see if there's a way to have the extra day, like on Friday, to get him there to the race, or Monday, because it's not a school curriculum. I understand that that's a whole different ballgame. But we need to figure out if there's some way, or I need to figure out if there's some way I can get him those days without him being absent, and maybe get his school work for those days. And I could do them with him, but I don't want to put him in a homeschool situation, because I think public school is very important for them to have their social when they're, growing up. I loved my school when I was young, so, and he does too, and his friends. I don't want him to be homeschooled, but I would like to have some kind of days or day that he can take to do that. And I also have a granddaughter that does competition cheer, which is very expensive, but you still need those days. She has competition cheer on Saturday. It may be in North Carolina or Atlanta, Georgia, or sometime Maryland, wherever. But we have to be there at like 6 a.m. to start doing her hair and getting her ready for competition cheer. So is there something in the laws or whatever to get them those days where they could get their schoolwork? Because I could do it with them that night, or, when we get there to the hotel or camper or whatever we're staying in, depending on the place, that I could get like their curricula or their work for that day to do with them without homeschooling them.
What I would say is that that's something that you could probably meet with us after the meeting if you were willing to wait, or maybe
Absolutely.
the principal might be able to.
Well, I've already talked to the principal, and they said that there's the 5 days. That's what I was talking about. And that's all they get due to school board. So that's why I was coming to you guys. I don't even know if this is the forum to ask, but I just was coming to you guys to see if there's something we can do to help them, because that's what they want to do in life, so he don't do football, he don't do baseball, he don't want to do basketball, he wants to do dirt bike racing. And I have some pictures. I brought pictures. So you can, I don't know, am I allowed to come up?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I brought pictures so you can see. He's really good, and he gets,
He's really crazy.
yeah, he's really good. He's 10, but he's really good. He's been doing it since he was 7, and we've taught this fight for 3 years. And he loves it, and I don't want to take that from him because of public school,
Yeah.
So I would like to see if there's something we can work out, or something like that for,
Yeah, I would say hang around after the meeting if you have the time.
absolutely.
If not, then you could probably reach out to any one of us, and we could put you in touch with Mr. Kirby or right. Gentleman right here.
With this, so I've been to all the different, I've been to all the different channels trying to figure it out, and they left me to here, so.
What's group are they in?
Nutterford, and she will be going, Nutterford, and she will be going to RCB or Bridgeport. Her mom isn't sure yet which one, but she's going to be going to RCB or Bridgeport, so. She's in high school and he's in elementary, so it's both schools, so. But yeah, I can hang out and I can talk to you.
I'm not gonna be here.
Oh.
I'm running for the door.
Oh,
Call me on.
I can chase you.
Call me Thursday.
Thursday, okay.
Thursday, 326-7300.
Let me get your.
Sorry, I know I'm behind 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Is there a number on?
Yes, her number's right here.
We also have our number on your delegation form, so we'll reach out.
Your phone number.
Okay.
Watch out, Mr. Kirby, she might
I
know
will
how to ride
definitely
her
be
bikes
calling you
too.
Thursday. Okay, go ahead.
326 7300. Just ask for me,
Okay, and your name is what?
Mr.
Okay, that was easy.
Did you record that, Mr. Poole?
Oh, so is that being recorded and everything?
His number.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's get back on track. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Now, our superintendent subject.
Sure, I have a few things. Just a reminder, next Monday, Tuesday, we'll have our principals all back. Most of them are back on Friday. So we have 2 full days planned. They're really all-day meetings to talk about lots of different things. They will receive the legislative updates and any legal updates. We have a speaker for that. We also have someone talking to them about like citizens complaints, more legal stuff that we're seeing more of than we've ever seen. So trying to do a full slate of things that they've asked for and that we think that maybe they need this time. So we're excited to have them all back. It's went quickly. Summer's went quickly so far. A lot of them, I think, have gotten to travel, so I'm happy for them. Also, for curriculum, Lola, she gave me an update today. We're finishing summer school, and thank you to Susie Miller. I think she's been every day at ESY. We've had a lot of great employees working this summer. That's extra time. Sometimes they need that time to refresh, but they're back working for us and giving us the time for the kids. And we'll be doing a summer program survey, so that'll be going out just so we can see if there's anything we can improve or do better next year. Attendance stayed about the same than it was at the beginning, so, but we offered it. We had feeding sites for the kids, so we'll do it again next year if the funding is available for that. So thank you to Lola and Susie and for everybody that participated in summer school and for the ones that babysat when they need to be. When people are working. Also, this was really great news. You know, every year we see compliances, every one of our departments. Every department we have, federal programs, special ed, finance, all those checklists. We got our first letter for the department overview for monitoring and special ed with our annual review, and we met requirements on all the standards, so that's huge. If you would like to have a copy of that letter, I'm going to provide you that. They look at, and you'll see the list on there. I mean, that's our graduation rates, our dropout rates, assessment. The assessment piece is more of the participation rate, like how many do we have participate. Suspension, they always look at our number of students, how many suspensions, is it in ratio, and then least restrictive environment concerns. All of our pre-K gets evaluated, monitored. They come in and do that to make sure we're being collaborative across the county, parent involvement activities, and also any post-school outcomes that we have. So we met all the criteria, so that was exciting. I always kind of scroll to the bottom and see the rating, and it meets requirements. So appreciate that. We'll be having, they just come in, and then in the fall, we get an overall county compliance rating. So this is one of our first. They're doing personnel now, making sure that we're using frontline. There's just so many different compliances that they put in place. Finance, we now have 21 instead of 7. They do transportation, you'll be getting that one. So this is one of the first ones coming in. So I was glad to see that. So thanks to everybody in our special ed world out there. It's a big operation in the county besides all of our teachers. Everybody works hard for that. Now they give you some not great news. We did an end of the year certification. We always do end of the year reports. Our enrollment is going to take a hit. Now we're hoping that there's a lot of pre-K and kindergarten not in there yet. So, but it looks like we may be below 9,000. I'm hoping that when we certify in October that it's not as low as I'm seeing for the schools, but that seems to be the trend every year. And I asked for that. We certify on lots of different reports at the end of the year. And that one was discouraging to see that, but we'll see what it is October 1. If I see any other data that shows otherwise, I wrote that down. Mr. Kirby, we had 659 on Hope and 859 on homeschool at the end of this year. And I can tell you, just the ones I see, they don't all come to me. A lot of them go to Julie and Mr. Kirby, but I get multiple ones every week that I send on for either Hope or intent to homeschool. So anyway, it's a lot. I'm sure that's, and I don't think you can read the paper or see anything on education in the counties around us. It's not talking about the same things for funding. So that was not good. And then also, we talked about the building level capacities for like open enrollment. There's two different reports, and I'm trying to get from the state, I don't know which ones they're looking at. There's the fire marshal one that if it's in Weavis, and those are exaggerated, I think, for the numbers. Like it's got Bridgeport is 1,250, I believe. So we're trying to get to that, what is the right number? We went back and looked at our trend, like how many kids have we had in those buildings, and we do have that over 10 years. To get capacity. The CEFP has capacity that are generally higher. They weren't as high as what was on the report that was in Weavis. But I think we discovered today that those were old. You ever did the end of the year reports as a principal? Remember the ones that had the square footage of your building and number of rooms and all that? Principals would usually just certify what was in there. So I think, yes, I think that was entered at some point by principals, and I think that's just carried over into Weavis and went into the new Weavis, I think. So that's where those capacities are coming from and utilization that's in Weavis. Now, the CEFP is what we've done when we do the CEFP update. And they are different than what's in there, so we're trying to get to the bottom of that to get a true capacity. Especially for middle and high school.
Can you bring us, when you get to that point, the numbers that these schools can actually handle? So that we, the fight always, well, this school's full, or we can't take no more, or we don't want no more. And if it can handle more, and they, I don't see how we can deny the child to go.
Elementary's easy because there's just caps. 25 in fourth grade or whatever, you go to 28. Those are easy. It's the middle of high schools. Like our Bridgeport Middle is showing that we can have 1,280 kids there, which
Is the fire marshal willing to come in and look again?
that's part of the CEFP, the capacity there. But you also can look at, what we've had in those buildings prior. We actually, the one, the Bridgeport High School, what do we end the year with, 788, I believe?
774 planned for next year.
Yeah.
It's been as high as 860.
860, so,
I was there.
yeah. So you've got to look at that too. It would be difficult to deny at this point, if we had more than that in the building at any other time, so.
And I
But
think
we
that-
did check into the capacity thing, and we did see that what the state's probably using is probably inflated, I would say.
Oh, it's all that, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that might be a little much, but, and I think it comes down to where if, once you get the numbers, and know the exact numbers, and a situation arises where a child wants to move into a certain, that decision, the final decision, be made by you and your staff, and with the input of the principals, but the final say would come down to you and your staff as to, yes, that child can do.
We have the in-county, on this meeting, so you can ask questions. She's got a good breakdown, Julie's got a good breakdown. Like a lot of schools, we have 4 going in, 4 wanting in, but 4 are leaving. I mean, it's really broken down. There's really nowhere that it's kind of overloaded, except for Lincoln's taking the majority of kids from Liberty. They're enrolling close to 40 more kids or 37. Yeah, so that changes the schedule at that point, but we were aware of that because of the consolidation, that we've made adjustments to schedules there, so. And added staff, I mean, you have to add where you need it in those cases.
I think before the county is even responsible for it, I think what happens is, as you said, those numbers are coming from the state, and when those numbers come from the state, and then we're talking about having a fire marshal in, it really needs to come down to the folks who are actually in the buildings too, to have a say of that, because all of us have been teachers, and when you have 40 in a classroom, and they say that's fine, that isn't fine, as we all know, as far as conducive for learning. And
And different size classrooms.
exactly,
Square
right.
footage of a classroom.
They're not all equal, they're not a square box that we have. And so there's so many things that really needs to go into that.
I know when Mr. Tucker and I was at Washington Irving, I don't think we ever turned any kids away. You know, no, we can't take you, or you know, and I just think at the end, the way things have gone since that time, is it comes down that you as superintendent and your staff and all the numbers, that you're the one that makes the final call. And then, once you make the final call, you know, it's like the Supreme Court, once they bet, you know,
Well, I think
My
this is
elevator
true.
there's a cap at the elementary level, so there's certain things in
So let me
activities that happen.
interrupt.
Yeah,
This is not the time for the debate. If you want to debate this, I would say your consent items. We have open enrollment, transfers, approvals, and denials. I would say maybe you could bring it up at that point, pull it out from the consent item agenda and discuss it.
Would you like me to do
Sure, if that's what you want.
it? Sure.
You're able to do.
Anytime.
Yeah, the superintendent should finish her update first.
But the only other piece I'd like for Ms. Leesburg to update you on personnel, because we are really working to downsize where we can, so we're looking at every big.
Yeah, these are the numbers of positions that have been abolished this personnel season. Like Mrs. Butler said, we are looking at absolutely every position that comes over. So it's not affecting individuals. And in preparation for so from May, we have abolished 15 professional positions and 5 service positions. We currently have 6 professional positions being held. We're waiting on numbers and more information, and also holding off on 4 positions. I do know once we had estimated, we had met with finance before, and estimated that if there would have been a reduction of 20 professional and 5 service, that equates to almost $2 million. So we're just 5 positions away from that. And so, you know, we've got 20 positions that have been abolished so far, and we've got 10 on hold. So
We just don't want to we want to go into spring and have a typical transfer season, move employees without, we're trying to be conscientious before we have to, you know.
we're
Make those-
desperately trying to avoid any type of a position. Their situation.
And we'll have a conversation with our administrators, that'll be part of the meeting Monday, Tuesday, to just really look at everything that you have and tell us what you can, because a lot of times they know, sometimes where they may have some room, but we may not. So we're asking them to really look at their schedules and tighten up with it, so I appreciate that. And then Mr. Lopez, we've got a lot of facility things going on, I was able to go around Friday to look at everything, so if you'd like to provide an update.
Sure. Well, good news is Nutter Fort is reaching substantial completion now, and it'll be ready to be occupied any day now. I know the custodians and staff is ready to get their items moved in. They're working on some final grading, and of course, the playground is something that's a big work in progress. So they're, you know, this gives the opportunity for the contractor to really focus on Simpson. And Simpson now is up out of the ground. The floor is completely poured. It was a long way around to get to that point, but I believe, you know, right now substantial completion completion date is mid-October. I think that they're probably going to ask for additional days for some of the problem with the foundation of the other building that put them a little bit behind. My guess is, and again, we have a meeting on Thursday, would be sometime in November for substantial completion on that building. But they're setting door frames and masonry is getting ready to go up. Usually, when it gets to that point, you're out of the woods as far as problems. So we've had plenty of them, but I think you'll see it smooth now. Liberty High School's going along really well and quick, and it really looks nice. They're doing the gym floor now. All the concrete work that's going to be done outside. Of course, that I thought that the college choice on the band up above the school was really modernized the look of that facility, and I think you guys get an opportunity to see it with the impressed. Mountaineer Middle, it's a little bit behind, but they are working very hard to try to catch up. A little bit of problem with the demolition and getting rid of some of the materials, but I think that with them, they're really using additional personnel, and I think that they'll get caught up and shouldn't be a problem. The schools are looking great. We've had a lot of floors replaced. For example, Johnson is getting brand new floors in their bathrooms, and it looks fantastic in their kitchen. I'm impressed with how Chad and his crew, maintenance department, has done this summer. They've gotten a lot of work done, and they're ready to move forward and have a good plan. The controlled entrance to Bridgeport and some other things, a little larger things that need to be done. There needed to be a roof put on the transportation building. I was asking Chad if we could get that done before I retired. He said, I'll see what I can do. I think that's all the facilities, and I'd like to thank everybody for the acknowledgement of retirement, and it's been a great career, almost 40 years of my days saved, and looking forward to the next chapter of my life. So no regrets, and thank you all for everything.
Thank you. And I will say maintenance has received several compliments.
Yeah, they've
From
done a nice
different
job.
administrators have sent compliments, and I forwarded those to Chad if he was not on there,
Yeah,
so
he's,
they've done a lot of hard
and
work.
those go a long way, and,
Yeah.
and, he's able to share that information, and you can see, there's not a lot said, but, it's good to be appreciated.
And we are fortunate in this county to have summer crews, and that's thanks to our levy. Thanks to those summer crews, because a lot of counties do not have that opportunity to really get in there and deep clean their buildings. So really appreciate that.
Can I add one thing, in regard to, the, number elementary? I, just happen to live pretty close to it, so I walked across the other day, and the contractor, the head contractor was here. He said, "We're just about done," and he was telling me what he said, "Would you like to take a look at it?" I said, "Sure." So we went in, and I tell you what, it is really nice. The rooms are very large, and, I mean,
And it just looks like, Jimmy and I said that, it just looks like it fits, like, there's no, it's like it's part of that building. Yes, it just really
After
looks
all
like
the
it belongs.
landscape and everything is finished,
Oh.
you walk that campus, you're not even going to realize that it's part of the building.
Right.
It's really nice.
And I believe the playground, the equipment has been ordered, and, yeah, so
Would
that'll
it be
be,
possible to set up tours when you have
That's what I was
substantial
thinking.
completion?
yeah,
Or
that'd be great.
look at everything and see what has been done.
Yes, we can do that. Absolutely. It's always exciting when you work so hard along, and then you actually see something like that being complete. Very,
Because you never thought it was coming out of the ground. It took so long, and then all of a sudden, once it came out of the ground, I mean, it just exploded. It is, they had different groups in there working on the other day, finishing up, stuff. But, really, really, really nice job they've done.
that's all. Thank you.
This brings us down to consent items. Is there a item that would like to be pulled from the consent items and voted on separately?
I'd like to pull open enrollments and transfers.
All right, I will pull open enrollments and transfers, and we will take A, meeting minutes, and B, financial transactions. Is there a motion to approve the consent items for meeting minutes and financial transactions as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to open up discussion on open enrollment transfers, approvals, and denials?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion is open.
Just a follow-up. I just think in my scheduling past, a lot of consideration is given to certain classes as far as class size goes. I'm pretty sure that not everybody realizes, like, when you only have 24 stations in a chemistry lab, you can't schedule 26 kids in there. When you're looking at an English teacher, you're expecting to write and increase writing in the classroom. You don't want to put 28 to 32 kids in there and expect them to write every week, because those are papers that they have to grade every week. Also, in the case of your junior and senior year, when they do term papers, they have to do that whole term paper process. Well, that's 28 times 7, or however many class periods they have, that they have to, those are the number of term papers that they have to go through and the term papers that they have to grade. I think there's the same thing with foreign language. Foreign language is asked to speak, write, and converse. If you have 28 kids in a Spanish class, especially beginning Spanish, I don't know how you get through all of that stuff when you've got a classroom full of kids packed in there. So there's a lot of other factors. It depends on your quality of education that you want in that classroom when you're looking at classroom size. So yes, you might be thinking about capacity, all right, and numbers in that sense, but you also need to look at the quality of education. There. Soapbox, I'm off. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Again, I think that starts with the state level. It really does. I mean, you think about that, because they're the ones that are giving you numbers, the county numbers that you have to work with. And that's where it needs to be changed, and that's where we need folks that are involved there that have to do with education.
Well, there's a reason why they cap it at 24 at the elementary level, right? Well, there should be the same reason why, there's because of the quality of education that you want those elementary kids to have. They should have that same consideration at the high school level. What kind of quality education do you want at the high school level?
Well,
And you're right, it should be there.
just my thoughts, I mean, if you look back, you went to school, I went to school, everybody here went to school, you know, the schools, there was a lot more kids in school than there are now. And every one of those kids got an education, you know, and there wasn't a count that you could eliminate how many you had in this class.
But we had more schools.
Hmm.
We had more schools, they were spread out. We might have had more kids in the county, but we had more schools and more teachers.
Well, I know when I went to high school, they was packed in every classroom. I mean, I just think that, you know, yeah, sometimes some teachers doing their job have maybe get a little more than somebody else, class-wise, because, you know, kids, want to go to have that teacher. Maybe that teacher's got a reputation for being, you know, a great teacher. Well, I want that teacher. And there's those kids that say, well, I'll take the other teacher, you know, maybe it's not going above and beyond. And I think in the past, most teachers went above and beyond, you know, in their classroom, so that every kid got a good opportunity. And so, you know, I think that, yeah, maybe you look at some limits, but I think you have to really do some soul searching as to before you turn a kid away from the class. You know, if it's only 24 and you got 26 want to take chemistry, then you're able to figure out a way that those other two kids are going to get the same opportunities as other 24 in that same, in those stations. You know, you can, instead of one kid or two kids at a station, there might be a couple stations that have 3 kids, you know. I never took chemistry or those harder classes. I just think that you just gotta, you gotta look at everything before just say, you can't put extra kids in a school or in a classroom or whatever. I mean, I know, I taught PE at Washington Irving Middle School. We had 150 kids in a PE class. We had kids everywhere. And you had to try and keep track, you had to keep them, grade them, keep record of their attendance and what was going on. I know PE doesn't compare to chemistry, if that's, the way you want to look at it. But you got, you were sure we would like to have had, 30 kids in the PE class, you could have done a lot more. And sometimes we didn't have no say in it. The principal, said, this is how many you're going to have, do the best you can.
That's probably where we need to have better collaboration too, between the administrators and the county office and those folks that are actually in the classroom.
Right.
We really need that. And we shouldn't punish that very good teacher that folks want to go into by, putting another 4 or 5 students with them. Either, whatever class it is, I don't care what class it is.
Especially
Watch,
if
we're
they,
not punishing the teacher in a sense, because, once you go by a certain number, and all of you are taught, so we know that, then, you're working on control at that time.
especially if you're going to have good classroom discipline.
Well, I still think it all comes back to the communication needs to be between school, the principals, and teachers. Teachers will go to the principal. Principals should then go to the directors of the elementary and the secondary level, talk to them, and there's a chain of command. But ultimately, it gets to the top, and then that's when I think superintendent makes a decision. She makes a decision that there can only be 24 in a chemistry class, and that's all it would be. But if there could be more, then she may. And I think it's, as a board, it's not our purpose for ours to become involved and try and make decisions. I just can't, I can't do that.
I don't think anybody's saying we're going to deny any of these. It's just more of a caution. And that I would hope that we would have legislators who would actually listen to teachers in the trenches, not even the administrators, the teachers that have to do this. And it's just something we're going to have to deal with until the law changes, and that's the law.
Good
For now.
Good luck with the legislators.
Let's not debate legislation in Charleston. We could stay here all night doing
Yeah.
that, so.
Oh, I know, some of the members of the total board down there,
Question.
Call the question?
Yeah.
All right, she called the question. There's been a motion and a second, so it is to approve the student transfers as, there is one removal. If you will look at your student high school transfers, the third student down on the first page from the transfer of Lincoln High School, from RCB to Lincoln High School, the parent would like to have that student removed. So I don't want to name the student, but I think if there were to be an amendment to the motion, then we could remove the student from this transfer list.
Make it amendment to remove this, transfer this.
So,
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, this takes us to new business. Our new business tonight consists of MOUs, contracts, different projects. So what I would like to do, instead of going through all of them individually, I would like to ask that someone make a motion to approve all new business for the MOUs, and then if anybody would like to discuss any of the contracts in that section, then we can pull those sections out. And I will read through the MOUs and the contracts that are listed.
I move that we approve all the MOUs and contracts under new business.
Second.
Okay. And from a discussion standpoint, the MOUs and contracts are the City of Bridgeport Pro Officers, Healthy Grand Families Contract, Summer Paving Project, the MOU with Montague County Health Department, PERC contracts, PERC contracts, after-hours contracts renewal, MOU for at-risk services, another MOU for at-risk services, a third MOU for at-risk services, MOU for music therapy, an MOU for O&M services, and an MOU with UHC, an MOU with another at-risk services, and an MOU with Best Life Therapy. Is there any discussion on any of those MOUs or contracts? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have one item under old business. It is a tabled item, and it will remain there unless someone makes a motion and the second follows, and we vote to bring it back onto the table.
I may have a point of order. According to Robert's rules, once a motion has been tabled and is brought up at the next business meeting, it's dead.
This was tabled at our last meeting.
I think it was tabled in June at some time.
We have to go back and look at that.
Last meeting, correct?
Oh, last business meeting.
Yeah, last business meeting, not work session.
June 17th. So I would have to research that with you, but if it's my understanding that they stay until it's been pulled back off the table to discuss. I will research that, and I will, if it's dead, it's dead. But if it's not dead, then we'll keep it. So I will give clarification.
Okay.
All right, so this will bring us down to board member comments. There are no legal and disciplinary matters. Mr. Tucker?
Personnel.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
The big,
The big one.
There we go. Is there a motion to approve personnel matters as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second for discussion? There is no second for discussion. It will render the personnel agenda as a dead motion.
and I have a new one.
A new motion?
I move that we approve the agenda with the removal of letter F under professional recommendations to create an assistant superintendent position.
Under the executive content.
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I thought we were usually research this.
Well, there is actually another item on the agenda. It's the executive content to create and abolish or assistant
It's
superintendent.
on page
position.
5.
I think that was, no, we can remove that for clarity and thoroughness. If you want to remove it, you can remove it. You can take it off the agenda so it's not in the vote together. Or we would have to vote that separate.
I think that was the motion I just made.
Right, it would be a motion to vote it separate. But if the superintendent wants to remove it, she could.
You said page 5?
Page 5, July 15th.
Page 5 at the top.
Yeah, it's fine. When I walked in. Yeah, that shouldn't, it's all right, they.
Is there any discussion on it? No. Okay, so the personnel agenda, we can be separated from the item F, creating an assistant superintendent. Is there a motion to accept the personnel agenda as presented without the creation of the assistant superintendent position?
I so moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No,
Motion carries. All right, this will bring us down to board member comments. Mr. Tucker.
Mrs. Brown, thank you for presenting tonight. That was very good and was enlightening to the program. And for Mr. Kirby being here for backup, obviously. Again, thank those that are watching at home. You can still watch it on YouTube. So again, thank you. And Mr. Lopez, thank you for your service over the years. Believe it or not, Mr. Lopez and I, he looks a lot younger than I am, but we were in school together.
he was in high school, he was in elementary.
That's about it.
Mr. Hope.
Do I bring it up now? Or- I just think that, we need to, look at that, the assistant superintendent's position again. However, we can bring it back, bring it up, especially a county of this size in comparison to the other counties of this size that have some 2, some 3 assistant superintendents. And we're looking at just one that should be here to work with the superintendent. So I think that's something that needs to be, at whatever point that we can bring it and put it back on the agenda.
So here's where we're at. Once I get clarification with Dr. Santilli's point of order, we'll determine where that tabled item is. The second item that was on the agenda this evening has been voted down. So that would have to be brought back again. In effect, what happens is there are 2 assistant superintendent situations that we voted on. One that was tabled and one that was in the agenda. So that would have been 2 separate positions. All right, so the one that was on the agenda was voted down. All right, so the one that is needing clarification is the table item. So the only way that would come back would be with a recommendation from the superintendent.
And, okay, so you will. No,
I'll get clarification.
I'll
I'll get clarification on
Okay.
Robert's Rules of Order, point of order.
And a second thing that I'd like to see is put on the agenda, it's not for, so much for now, because it's already been, it's all settled on for this year, but the next year, in the spring, if you look at reasonings for kids transferring from one school to another school, I mean, if that's the case, there ought to even be a reason why a kid transfers. I mean, if you look at, parents worksheet, and, where they've been attending, or child care, things of that nature there, special needs. I mean, I think all these have to be looked at. And I think that we need to come to some kind of an understanding as there has to really be a need for a child to change, from one school to another. Even though all the schools are open, but I just think that we need to, I mean, it's going to get to a point where if more children are allowed to attend Bridgeport, and we can't prevent that, then then you've opened the floodgate for a lot of parents to say, I want my child to be there. Rather than, and then all of a sudden, enrollments are dropping in the other schools and affecting the personnel and everything there. And I just think that, we talked about this in the past years, of ways. So it used to be really a particular and stringent way to be able to change schools. And now, it just doesn't seem like there's any way to, stop that.
But I don't think that's our county, that isn't our county,
state.
that's the thing.
Well, what might be a good idea is the process that we used to have, was to go to the principal of the school, go to the principal of your school, if both of them released you, then you were able to transfer. Now, in effect, if you still did that process, there wouldn't be able to be denial based on the new legislation, but is that process even happening still? Maybe we try to enforce that process a little bit, see if that might
Or,
encourage.
I had the same feeling when I looked at those reasons, all those reasons, believe me.
I mean,
At the same time, I do.
Some of them are just shy of putting down sports or athletics. I mean, they can do it for that reason as well. I mean, there's no reason, we can't deny a student placement in another school unless it's a capacity issue.
It initially started with schools, and then came free for all. Yeah, I would like to thank all your people and you all, everyone that has been working on the buildings and doing all the reports and the extra stuff the state dumped on you for the other reports from 2017. And thank you all so much. Better you than I, that's all I can say.
Mr. Warner, may I say one more thing? I had 3 sisters, they're all born, and I was the baby, I'm still the baby. And I'll have a child for each one of them. Yeah, so thank you all, certainly appreciate it. And whenever I hear them ringing, I do leave. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I hope you had a great summer. It's almost over. I guess next week, Christmas will be back and we're off and running again. So thanks, everyone, for all your hard work. All you people out there. Hopefully Whitney will have it all fixed up for you guys. She's gonna make a call tomorrow to Bento. Oh, good, she's already did it. Yay! So when you log on to your member login at Bento, hopefully that'll be fixed for you all folks out there in insurance land. So thank you. That's it. It's 6:08.
All I'll say is, Mr. Tucker, our sympathies go out to your family. God bless you and your family. And Mr. Lopez, distinguished career, congratulations, stay up for English chapter. And I have nothing to. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, we are adjourned. All right, so